She skipped the most important exam of her life. Not because she was lazy. Not because she didn't care. Not because she wasn't prepared. In fact, she had studied all night. Flashcards spread across her desk. Coffee gone cold beside her books. This exam wasn't just another test, it was the exam. The one that decided scholarships. The one that could change her entire future. She was already late when she got into her car. Her hands were shaking on the steering wheel as she repeated formulas in her head, praying she'd still make it before the doors closed. The campus was only 15 minutes away. 15 minutes between success and setback. Then she saw it. A black car pulled over on the side of the road. Hazard lights blinking. Smoke curling faintly from under the hood. A man stood beside it, phone in hand, frustration written all over his face. She slowed down. Other cars sped past him. Some didn't even turn their heads. Everyone was in a hurry, just like her. She checked the time again. If she stopped, even for a few minutes, she might miss the exam. Her foot hovered between the gas and the brake. She could already hear her professor's voice. No late entries. No exceptions. No mercy. She whispered to herself, someone else will stop. But no one did. The man looked up, not desperate, not angry, just tired. The kind of tired that comes from carrying too much responsibility alone. Her car rolled to a stop. She didn't know why she stopped. She didn't plan it. It wasn't heroic. It was instinct. She stepped out and asked a simple question, "Are you okay?" He smiled politely and said, "Car trouble. I'm late for something important." She nodded, already knowing the cost of staying. What she didn't know was simple. That this wasn't just any stranger. This wasn't just any broken down car. This wasn't just any ordinary morning. She didn't know the man she was helping would one day be known as one of the most powerful people on the planet. She didn't know his name was Elon Musk. And she definitely didn't know that 3 days later, the sound that would shake her quiet neighborhood wouldn't be thunder, but a helicopter landing in her yard. She was a final-year engineering student. Top of her class. First in her family to ever attend college. Every grade she earned carried weight, not just for her, but for everyone who believed in her. Her mother worked double shifts. Her father reminded her every night how proud he was, even when exhaustion cracked his voice. This degree wasn't a dream anymore. It was responsibility. That morning mattered more than any other. Her final exam wasn't just another requirement. It was the exam professors talked about in hushed tones. The one companies watched. The one scholarship boards reviewed line by line. One mistake could close doors. One success could open everything. She had earned the right to be there. As she drove toward campus, the sky was pale and quiet, the kind of morning that feels heavy with expectation. Her notes sat in the passenger seat, covered in handwritten equations and last-minute reminders. She repeated concepts out loud, forcing calm into her breathing. Focus. Just get there. Then, a few minutes down the road, something caught her eye. A black car stood still on the shoulder. Hazard lights blinking in steady rhythm. The hood slightly raised. A man stood beside it, phone pressed to his ear, pacing slowly. His posture said frustration, but not panic. He looked composed, too composed for someone stranded. She drove past him at first. Everyone did. Cars streamed by without slowing. Tires hummed. Music played. Lives continued. No one wanted to be late. No one wanted to be inconvenienced. Neither did she. Her eyes flicked to the clock on the dashboard. Still possible, but barely. Her thoughts raced. This is not your problem. Roadside assistance exists. You've worked too hard to risk this. She tightened her grip on the steering wheel and kept driving. But in the rearview mirror, she saw him again. The man had stopped pacing. He leaned against the car now, staring at the ground. Not angry. Not dramatic. Just waiting. Something about that bothered her. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't obligation. It was familiarity. She'd seen that look before, in her mother's eyes when bills piled up. In her own reflection during nights, she wondered if she was strong enough to keep going. The look of someone who didn't ask for help, but needed it. Her car slowed. She told herself she'd only stop for a second. Just to ask. Just to make sure he was safe. She could still make it. Maybe. The turn signal clicked. Her tires crunched against the gravel as she pulled over behind the black car. She exhaled, long and shaky. This was a risk she couldn't measure. She stepped out, feeling the weight of time pressing against her chest, and approached the stranger. He looked up, surprised, then relieved. "Thank you for stopping," he said. His voice was calm, controlled. "I didn't expect anyone to." She nodded. "Are you okay?" He gestured toward the engine. "Overheated. I've got people working on it, but I'm late." She glanced back at her own car, then at the road, then at the clock again. She knew what staying meant, but she also knew what leaving would feel like. And in that moment, standing between her future and someone else's problem, she made a choice. She stayed. And without realizing it, she stepped directly into a story that would follow her for the rest of her life. She rolled down the window. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice steady even though her heart wasn't. The man looked up and offered a tired smile, the kind that tries to hide stress but can't quite manage it. "Car trouble," he said, glancing back at the open hood. "I'm late for something important." Those words hit harder than he realized. Late for something important. She glanced at the dashboard clock again. The minutes felt louder now, ticking inside her chest. Every second she stayed was a second slipping away from her exam, the exam she had worked years for. She nodded slowly. "Did you call for help?" "I did," he replied. "They're on the way. I just didn't expect it to take this long." She could leave. That was the simplest option. The smartest option. She had done enough just by asking. No one would blame her for driving off. Her future depended on it. She wrapped her fingers around the steering wheel. Her mind started arguing with itself. You can't fix his car. You can't fix your future if you miss this. You don't even know him. She inhaled, ready to apologize and pull away. Then she noticed his hands. They were shaking, just slightly, not from fear, but from pressure. The kind that comes from knowing people are waiting on you. Depending on you. She thought of her own hands the night before, shaking over her notes. The pressure to succeed. To not let anyone down. Her door opened before she fully decided. She stepped out of the car. "I can stay a few minutes," she said, even as her stomach tightened. "Maybe I can help speed things up." Relief crossed his face. "Thank you. Really." She stood beside him as traffic continued to rush past. She helped him call roadside assistance again, this time navigating menus and hold music while he paced. When the call finally connected, she spoke clearly, confidently, the way she did during presentations. "Yes," she said into the phone. "We're on Route 6, mile marker 14. The engine overheated." "Yes, he's safe." She handed the phone back and offered him her water bottle. He hesitated, then accepted it with a grateful nod. "You don't have to do this," he said. "I know you're probably late for something too." She smiled, small and nervous. "I am." But she didn't leave. Minutes passed. 5, 10, 15. Each one felt heavier than the last. Her phone buzzed with notifications, reminders, classmates asking where she was, an automated message from the exam system reminding students to arrive early. She turned the screen face down. The man tried to make conversation, asking what she studied, where she was headed. She told him she was an engineering student. Final year. Final exam. His expression changed. "You should go," he said gently. "You've done more than enough." She looked at the road. At the line of cars that kept moving. At how easy it would be to step back into her life like this moment never happened. But then she imagined leaving him alone again, standing beside a broken car, watching everyone else pass. "I'll wait until help gets here," she said quietly. Finally, the sound of a service truck grew louder in the distance. Relief washed over her, followed instantly by panic. She checked the time. Her chest tightened. The exam had already started. When the truck pulled in behind them, she helped explain the issue, thanked the driver, and turned back toward her car. The man reached into his pocket, pulling out a business card. "Please," he said. "Take this. Let me make this right." She shook her head. "It's okay. I just hope you make it where you're going." Their eyes met for a moment, something unspoken passing between them. Gratitude. Respect. Maybe even regret. She got into her car and drove. The campus appeared in the distance like a finish line she could no longer reach. She parked, ran toward the building, heart pounding, lungs burning. The doors were closed. A sign hung on the glass. No late entries. She stood there, staring, as students inside bent over their papers. Her hands dropped to her sides. In that moment, the weight of her decision finally settled. She had chosen kindness. And it felt like it had cost her everything. She sat in her car and cried. Not the quiet kind of crying, the kind that sneaks up on you, but the kind that shakes your chest and blurs your vision until the world feels distant. Her forehead rested against the steering wheel as everything she had been holding in finally collapsed. Years of work. Late nights. Missed parties. Sacrifices no one ever saw. All of it felt erased by one moment. One decision. One act of kindness. And now it felt like everything was gone. She replayed the morning over and over in her head, searching for a different ending. If she had left sooner. If she had driven faster. If she had chosen herself just this once. Her phone buzzed again, messages from classmates asking if she was okay, from group chats already buzzing about the exam. She didn't open any of them. What would she even say? I stopped to help someone. I thought it was the right thing to do. I missed my future because I didn't want to abandon a stranger. She wiped her face, started the engine, and drove away from campus slowly, like she was leaving a part of herself behind. The road home felt longer than it ever had. She passed the same stretch where she had pulled over earlier. The black car was gone. The shoulder was empty. No sign that the moment had ever happened. That made it worse. She realized she didn't even know the man's name. No last name. No explanation. No proof the sacrifice had meant anything at all. He hadn't promised her anything. She hadn't asked for anything. That was the hardest part. Kindness didn't come with guarantees. When she reached home, she sat in the driveway for a long time before going inside. Her parents' car was already there. They were waiting. Hoping. She didn't know how to explain this loss without sounding foolish. Inside, her room felt unfamiliar, like a place meant for someone with a future she might not have anymore. Her notes still lay open on the desk, frozen in time. She sank onto the bed and stared at the ceiling. Her heart was heavy. Her future uncertain. And all she could do was wonder whether doing the right thing was going to cost her everything she'd worked for. 3 days later. Life hadn't magically fixed itself. Those 3 days were heavy and quiet. Emails arrived from the university. Formal, polite, unforgiving. Policies. Procedures. Appeals that might take months and still lead nowhere. Her scholarship status was now under review. Her internship interviews were paused. Nothing dramatic happened. Just the slow ache of consequences. That morning, she sat at the kitchen table pretending to read, barely tasting her food. Outside, the neighborhood was calm, the usual sounds of distant traffic, a dog barking, children laughing somewhere down the street. Then she heard it. A low, unfamiliar hum. At first, she thought it was thunder. But the sound didn't fade, it grew louder. Deeper. Stronger. The windows began to vibrate slightly. Glass rattled in the cabinets. She stood up. The hum turned into a roar. Neighbors stepped outside their houses, shading their eyes, pointing toward the sky. Someone shouted, "Is that a helicopter?" She walked to the front door, heart pounding for reasons she couldn't explain. And then she saw it. A sleek black helicopter circled once, twice, and began descending. Not toward the park. Not toward the road. Toward her house. The wind from the blades whipped leaves into the air, scattering dust across the yard. The noise swallowed the street whole. People backed away in disbelief as the helicopter lowered itself carefully onto the grass, just feet from her front steps. She stood frozen. This wasn't real. The blades slowed. The engine softened. Silence fell in waves. The door slid open. 3 men stepped out, all in dark suits, earpieces in place, moving with calm precision. They scanned the area, then turned toward her. Her breath caught in her throat. One of them smiled, professional, reassuring. "Are you the student who stopped to help our CEO 3 days ago?" he asked. The words didn't make sense at first. "Our CEO?" She looked around, half expecting someone else to answer. Her voice cracked. "I think you have the wrong house." The man shook his head gently. "We don't." Her neighbors whispered behind her. Phones were already out, recording. Someone gasped. Another laughed nervously, certain this had to be some kind of mistake. Her legs felt weak. Before she could say anything else, a familiar figure stepped out of the helicopter. Same calm posture. Same quiet presence. Same tired, thoughtful eyes. The man from the roadside. He smiled, not the polite smile from before, but a warmer one now, filled with recognition. Elon Musk, he said softly, extending his hand. The world seemed to tilt. Her mind raced, trying to catch up. No. That's not possible. That's just a name you see on screens. That's not someone you meet on the side of the road. She shook his hand without realizing it, her fingers trembling. I wanted to find you sooner, he continued, his voice steady, almost gentle. But I needed to make sure I did this properly. She swallowed. I didn't know who you were, she said, finally finding her voice. I know, he replied. That's why this matters. He glanced at the yard, at the house, the neighborhood, the people watching in stunned silence. You didn't stop because you thought it would benefit you, he said. You didn't ask for my name. You didn't ask for anything at all. He paused. You gave up something important for a stranger. Her chest tightened. I thought I ruined my life, she whispered, the words escaping before she could stop them. He looked at her carefully, the way someone looks when they're listening, truly listening. Sometimes, he said, the moment that feels like the end is actually the beginning. One of the men in suits stepped forward, holding a folder. Elon took it but didn't open it yet. Before we talk about what's inside, he said, I want you to understand something. The street was completely silent now. I've met brilliant people, he continued. I've met powerful people. I've met ambitious people. But character, real character, is rare. He met her eyes. And you showed it when no one was watching. The wind stirred the grass where the helicopter had landed. 3 days ago, she had been just a student who made a difficult choice. Now, standing in her own yard, she realized that choice hadn't disappeared into nothing. It had found its way back to her. And her life was about to change forever. I watched you give up something important, he said. Without knowing who I was. The words settled slowly, like they needed time to be understood. She stood there, hands clasped tightly in front of her, still trying to process how the stranger from the roadside had turned into the most recognizable entrepreneur in the world, and why he was standing in her yard. Elon Musk held out a thin folder. Not dramatically. Not proudly. Just calmly, like this was something that belonged to her. Please, he said. Open it. Her fingers hesitated before taking it. The folder felt heavier than it should have, as if it carried more than just paper. Her neighbors leaned closer. The men in suits stood quietly, giving her space. She opened it. The first page made her breath catch. A full scholarship. Tuition covered. Living expenses covered. No conditions tied to performance, no probation, no fine print that threatened to disappear if she stumbled. Her eyes moved quickly over the words, afraid they might vanish if she looked away. I spoke with your university, Elon said gently. They explained the situation. You didn't violate any rules. You violated expectations, and those are easier to fix. Her throat tightened. The next page stopped her completely. A personal internship offer. Not a general program. Not a maybe. Not a future possibility. A direct invitation to work with one of his companies, tailored to her field, her interests, her academic focus. It included a mentor, real projects, and something she hadn't expected at all, a sentence that read, position reserved regardless of academic timeline. Tears blurred the words. I didn't do it for this, she whispered, suddenly overwhelmed. I know, he replied. That's why you deserve it. She turned the page one last time. A handwritten note. Not typed. Not dictated. Ink on paper. She read it slowly. The future belongs to people who choose character when no one is watching. Her hands trembled. She had spent days believing she'd made a mistake, that kindness had punished her, that doing the right thing had been naive. She had questioned herself, her judgment, even her values. And now, standing here, she realized something important. The test she had passed wasn't the one she missed. I want you to understand something, Elon said, his voice quiet but firm. Opportunities can be rebuilt. Skills can be taught. But integrity, that's something you either have or you don't. He looked at her parents, who had stepped outside, eyes wide with confusion and emotion. Then back at her. You didn't stop because you thought it would help your future, he continued. You stopped because it was the right thing to do. She nodded, tears finally spilling over. I thought kindness didn't count, she said softly. Not in the real world. He smiled, not amused, not impressed, but respectful. "It's the only thing that really does," he said. One of the men in suit stepped forward to quietly explain details, timelines, contacts, next steps, but the words blurred together. None of it felt real yet. What felt real was the shift inside her. The weight she had been carrying for days, the shame, the doubt, the fear, began to lift. She hadn't failed. She hadn't lost everything. She had been seen. Before leaving, Elon paused once more. "Don't let this change who you are," he said. "Let it confirm it." Then he extended his hand again. This time, her grip was steady. As the helicopter lifted off moments later and the noise faded into the sky, her street slowly returned to normal. Neighbors drifted back inside. Phones lowered. The spectacle ended. But something else remained. Proof, undeniable proof, that character matters. And that sometimes, the exam you never planned to take, is the one that defines your entire future. She didn't help him because he was powerful. She helped him because he was human. That's the part people miss. She didn't know his name. She didn't recognize his face. She didn't stop because she expected a reward, a favor, or a miracle. She stopped because someone needed help, and she was there. For days, she believed that choice had ruined her life. She believed kindness was a luxury she couldn't afford. She believed the world only rewarded speed, ambition, and self-interest. But the truth was quieter. The truth was that character had been watching the entire time. In a world obsessed with outcomes, she chose values. In a moment where no one would have blamed her for leaving, she stayed. When it would have been easier to protect her future, she protected her humanity. And that changed everything. Not because a billionaire noticed her. Not because a helicopter landed. Not because opportunity suddenly appeared. But because she passed a test that most people don't even realize they're taking. The test of who you are when there's nothing to gain. Power didn't create her future, it revealed it. Money didn't validate her choice, it followed it. Fame didn't make her kindness real, it made it visible. Too often, we think respect is something we give only upward. We save our patience for people who can help us. Our empathy for people who matter. But the truth is simple and uncomfortable. You never know who you're standing in front of. And more importantly, you never know who you're becoming in that moment. That day on the roadside wasn't about Elon Musk. It wasn't about business or success or luck. It was about a young woman choosing to see another human being, even when the cost felt too high. And that choice didn't just change her circumstances. It confirmed her character. Somewhere out there, someone is watching how you treat people who can do nothing for you. How you speak to strangers. How you act when no one is applauding. Those moments don't go viral. They don't make headlines. They don't come with instant rewards. But they shape who you become. And sometimes, when you least expect it, they come back to you in ways you could never plan. So remember this, kindness is never wasted. Integrity is never invisible. And the right thing is still the right thing, even when it feels costly. Write down pointing backhand index if you believe kindness never goes unnoticed. Type kindness in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. Red Heart Hash.